in a while. My name is Mark number. What number am I now at this stage, given there's 82 of us?
Yeah, probably since
No,
Emmet
no.
left, I'd say.
I've been listening to episodes that I haven't been on, and it was discussed a few interviews back, but I'm not going to go and check that now. Anyways, getting back to whatever is important, and it's another episode of the podcast. That's the main thing. Whatever about numbers, we're here. We're talking about wrestling. Lads, introduce yourselves. Let the audience know who you are. Welcome them to another week.
I'm Seth Rollins, as you can see by the t-shirt. 4-time WWE champion, two-time ROH champion. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
All along.
At least it's a lot cleaner than the last one. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Welcome back for another week. Always, but I'm not.
I'm Will. I'm Galacini's #1 fan, and
Hey! Step down your ladder. I'm the #1 fan.
Okay, I'm the #2 fan, and if Martin keeps talking down on Galacini, I might have to hit him with a pile driver from the top rope.
That I like.
I would be for that. And you smell like milk. So we've got all the boxes ticked. We're off rolling, a great start for another week, another episode of the podcast. I must actually start this episode by giving you credit where credit's due as well. The last 10 or so episodes, excluding the one or two I've been on and everything like this, have actually been such a joy to listen to. And I know I'm good for giving you praise when I come back on every now and again, but in particular the Brian Kendrick one, because you were a little bit critical of yourselves in conversation that we had in private after the fact. But I actually thought that was a rather good interview. I enjoyed that one quite a bit, especially the same as last week's one as well. So you had Luke Barry.
Luke Perry, I thought was really good, yeah.
That was a great one. You had the 2 introduction episodes with Will, where you were reviewing Hard Knocks, and then OTT predictions as well for SmackDown.
Yeah.
Outside of that, God.
Leo Rush, I'd say, would have been in the last 10.
In the last 10, yeah. Yeah, because that...
Our 1,000 episode sure would have been in the last 10.
Actually, yeah.
Or 1,000 episode, or 100 episode, or 100 episode.
1,000 episode.
Whoa. I'm living in 2026 here at the moment. Sorry, Liz. 2026. I'm living in 2036 at this stage.
We pre-recorded quite a bit.
yeah. This is actually filmed in 2019.
And I think WWE is going to have a great 2020 with loads of fans in attendance, and everyone's going to be really happy at the end of the calendar year. Anyways, we'll move back on to the topic at hand. So I've been left to decide.
That's a controversial anyway.
I've been left with the dubious task of being allowed to pick a topic for an episode of this podcast, which I have not done actually in quite a while. I've usually hopped on little guest appearances here and there. This is the first time I've got to take the reins in the episode. And what we're going to do this week is actually something that I've taken inspiration from the crowd over at Cultaholic. That is, I want to hear your controversial wrestling opinions. Now, just as a disclaimer, before we get into anything, all of the thoughts and opinions shared by any member of the any thoughts and opinions shared are ours individually and ours alone. Just because one of us says it does not mean that the rest of us agree with it. I just think this will make for very, very fun discussion, right? One thing I want to get from the off, are we keeping it to international wrestling? Are we talking about Irish wrestling as well?
I've gone very international, but if you're open to everything, you can go everything.
Just before we continue, let me get a little back behind the curtain insight. Will, my microphone's been muted this whole time, so have fun with that edit. Have fun.
Yeah, I'm leaving this job.
Moving on.
Who would like to start off?
I think you should start off. This was your topic, your idea. Go on, throw
I'm
us a bone there.
I'm gonna tell you one that I discussed. Well, not that we discussed, but one that I mentioned to you as a little bit of an example. In our own private group chat, talk about this episode and everything like this. Now, I want to explain my points before everyone goes possibly disagreeing. So, my first.
Hang on. Let's say what I had a penguin bar earlier. Does anyone want to hear the joke?
Yes, we do. That gives me
What
time to
did the
find the notes.
penguin get from the genie in the lamp?
From the depths.
That's terrible.
Three fishes.
Was that
Okay,
a joke?
Yeah.
I thought it was fairly good. Now, to be honest,
What do you mean it was fairly good?
Like,
That was
that
better.
It's on the penguin bar. Like,
My
I didn't
God.
just pluck it out on all.
I thought that was fairly good. That one had me laughing on the floor.
Look at the goddamn size of me.
Look at the size of me.
That gave me just enough time to get my notes out, right? So my first controversial opinion is this, and I will actually die on this hill. Fergal Devitt's career pre-WWE will have a longer lasting impact on professional wrestling as a whole than his career since signing with WWE will. And before anyone disagrees like mad or whatever like this, and I know we all have the same opinion that he was never utilized properly in WWE, just remember that Fergal Devitt, as well as Paul Tracy, are arguably, they are the foundations of the Irish pro wrestling scene. That's how the first school came about, was over the two boys, or the two lads, I should say, sorry. As well as that, Fergal is the founder of the Bullet Club. Fergal would have been one of the first wrestlers of the new millennia to put eyes on New Japan post 1990s and everything like that. And as well as that, you could argue that New Japan and Ring of Honor and the likes of CCW and stuff like that were really the starting points of like the indie buzz that would have taken flight from the early 2010s on, which led to the formations of AEW. So Fergal doesn't have full responsibility for that, but Prince Devitt New Japan was a major like point of intrigue for independent wrestling fans. Not that New Japan is independent, of course, but like for a major promotion outside WWE. So that is my first not so controversial opinion.
And I think you're completely wrong. Outside of... Okay, so let's think of this, right, in different sections.
Okay.
Irish wrestling. You know that without Fergal Devitt, there's no Fight Factory.
Exactly.
In Irish wrestling. International, you know there's no Bullet Club without Fergal Devitt. That's it. That's the only history you know. If you're, we'll say, let's say you're not a Dave Meltzer and fucking watching everything. That's all you know of Fergal Devitt, Finn Balor, is, he started Bullet Club. Then when you were living in Ireland, Finn Balor opened up that school in Bray, which became Fight Factory. That's it.
I don't agree, just because like prior to him signing, I would have been aware of him prior to him forming Bullet Club over like all of his standouts in not just one or two, but several editions of Best of the Super Juniors. Like, do you know what I mean? I've mentioned it in another episode of this show before, but the match he had with Davey Richards, I think was it like 2010 or 2011 in the Best of Super Juniors. Like that was mentioned PWI Top 100 for that year and everything. And like let's even take a step away from that. One thing I forgot to mention is whatever about Irish wrestling. He was one of the biggest stars of the UK indie wrestling scene as well, prior to like the run in New Japan as well. Like the whole demon thing of covering himself in paint, that would have started in ICW, like, do you know what I mean? And just basically, I don't know, I'm giving him too much praise, I think, with the indie wrestling thing that I said as part of that, like, whole Ransom went on a few minutes ago. That's fair. I would agree, like, with what you're saying, those two main standout points and everything like this. But I don't know. I think if you were a diehard wrestling fan in like the early 2010s, prior to Bullet Club, and if you weren't living in Ireland and everything like this, if you followed wrestling line, you would have been aware of who Prince Devitt was like. Do you know what I mean? Because he was a big name. He was a considerably big name prior to Bullet Club, prior to WWE and everything like that. Like he was a big standout in independent wrestling. Like,
you want to throw in a few cents there, Carmo?
I'm kind of on the fence of whether I agree or disagree, because like the Bullet Club thing is huge, considering where the Bullet Club has come and some of the people that have come through the Bullet Club and the names that the Bullet Club has made. But I think when you look at Finn Balor and you look at his WWE career, you have to more so look at his NXT career than his WWE
Yeah.
career. And his NXT career is right up there with the best of the best in any line of history in WWE. I think he's the first ever two-time NXT champion. Do you know that kind of way? I think he's only won it twice. He might have won it 3 times. But some of his work and some of the matches he put on in NXT are phenomenal. And people will credit him for that for a long, long time. The Irish wrestling thing, in the point that you're making, is only valid for us and people living in Ireland. So I'm going to exclude that a little bit. I'm going to base it on either Bullet Club or WWE. Does Bullet Club outweigh what he's done in NXT? Does everybody know, or will everybody credit Finn Balor, Fergal Devitt for starting the Bullet Club?
No.
Or do they remember,
Omega,
do you remember when AJ
Bucks.
Styles was there? Or do you remember when Kenny Omega and the Bucks and Cody was there? Stuff like that. I believe he's just after signing a new 4 or 5 year contract with WWE. And he's at least got a world title reign in there, if not 2 or 3. So I think by the time that 5 years is up, it'll be a lot closer. But I to argue your point, I'll go on the more agree side. But I think it's kind of 51-49, if that kind of makes sense. Sure, that kind of way. That's the way I kind of look at it.
Yeah. I just want to add one point just on the Irish wrestling thing, just because you mentioned there that it really only applies to us. Bear in mind, with him and Paul Tracy starting the first proper Irish wrestling school here, without that system, if like the likes of Joe Cabray hadn't been trained, you don't get to OTT, which means you don't get the likes of now JD McDonough, formerly Jordan Devlin. You don't get Laia Valkyria. There's X amounts of talent that you don't get. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would I do for. I'm not dismissing his WWE career and saying this. I think I've misworded my point really with the first one. I think what I was trying to say properly now is that like if he never went to WWE, he would have had a long-standing wrestling legacy without it. I think the WWE run is just the cherry on cake because it always will put more of a spotlight on what he did around it as well, if that makes any sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Will, have you any 2 cents in this?
So I mentioned it. I think it was on the first episode I done with yous that Fergal lives about 10 minutes down the road from my great aunt, and knowing that kind of gave me a weird feeling. I was like, oh my god, like there's a wrestler who's in Japan, like jumping off the top rope and 2-footing people and all that, and it kind of made me more interested in New Japan wrestling then. And then I was watching his old matches because I never watched New Japan. I only watched kind of WWE and NXT kind of stuff. And then I found out it was, I don't know if you remember, it was when Triple H kept posting this stuff on the WWE page and Instagram and Twitter when he was in the ring with wrestlers he signed.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing Kenta, and I was like, oh my God, this is cool. I've seen him fighting before. And then I seen the picture with Finn Balor or Fergal, whatever you want to call him. And it was so exciting. So then it made me even intrigued more to watch him New Japan stuff. But then watching his WWE stuff and seeing him bringing the Demon character in, seeing his run in NXT, and then seeing that amazing match with Seth Rollins. Unfortunately, what was it, like 12 hours later, he had to give it up. Yeah, that was heartbreaking because like I was such a fan of him, especially the fact that he was Irish and I'm Irish and I can relate to someone like how he can relate to Sheamus and all that, and Becky Lynch and the rest. But I was thinking there when you were all speaking, do you remember how the other night at Backlash they were mentioning like certain Bullet Club members like Evil and all that, and then we seen who. I don't know if it sounds weird when I'm saying it, might not make sense, but I don't think he'd be mentioned as much in the wrestling independent scene if he didn't go to WWE, because you have, as you said, you have Kenny Omega, you have AJ Styles. Like to me, they kind of gave the Bullet Club a bigger name. Even though, as we said, like Finn Balor done his thing with Bullet Club, but I think his WWE career would outstand more than his independent career. And as you said, Emma, like if he didn't set up the company, we wouldn't have the domino effect of Valkyrie and all that coming through, and like Jordan and all that. So I'm probably going to say I'm probably 50-50 between it. Like it's a very tough one to talk about.
And I think the thing with this one as well is there's so many variables in the answer as well, because like on my points and everything like that, what's there to say on what he would have done had he not gone to WWE? Would he have ever gone to AEW when AEW formed? Would he have stayed in New Japan? Would he have possibly retired younger? Do you know what I mean? That's why these are controversial opinions, because there's not really a right or wrong answer depending on the take. Like, do you know what I mean?
Mm.
I'm going to move on to Mr. David Carmody. What is your controversial take, sir?
It's not as much of a controversial take as much of an opinion, to be honest. It's one that I've kind of stated there quite a few times, and I think Martin would agree with me. Promo ability matters more than your wrestling ability.
Say it again.
Promo ability matters more than your wrestling ability.
Hell yeah. 100%.
And there's examples from all across the history of wrestling. And the biggest one being Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, actually. I was kind of inclined. Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
No, you go on.
Hulk Hogan's promo ability got him over more so than his wrestling ability. Ever will, and ever, ever. And you'll make the opinion of he'll get knocked out, he'll come back up with the who. It's a promo ability. That's what it is. And he'll get the crowd on you. Hogan had like 3 moves. He had a body slam, a leg drop, and another leg drop. No, what's it called?
The body slam, the leg drop, and big boot.
Big boot.
Yeah.
And that's what got him over. Look at Cena. Cena was what? Everyone called him what? The
5 moves of doom.
5 moves of doom, exactly. Like, you know what I mean? And I think in his latter years for Cena, he actually became a better wrestler. But what got him over was his promo ability.
Oh, for sure.
And that's everything.
That's why I said it's not really a controversial opinion. I think it's just
an opinion. No, I agree with that. I know there's people out there that like, oh, wrestling is everything. You have to be able to wrestle. Yeah, you do, but no, you have to be entertaining. You got to be able to cut a promo. Promos are the best fucking thing that wrestling has to offer. Storytelling. It's what fucking gets me in. Like, there's times here that Emmet will go, God, yeah, that was a great match there, that show. Yeah, but this one, you know, was better to me. How could you say that? Because the story that went into it. I love matches that have stories going in. Fucking Terry and Sam for the Undisputed Hard Knocks World title. I loved that because of the story going into it. You know, Terry fought Sam for a show. An example of someone who cut a really good promo. He's going to fucking take this and run with it now. Robbie Mack can cut a good promo.
He can cut a very good promo,
in fairness to me. He can cut a fucking really good promo. So, promos to me are fucking everything. You have to be able to talk. You have to be able to fucking create stories. Wrestling is an extra. I know like it's supposed to be professional wrestling. It's what it's supposed to be about. But it's why I would prefer WWE over an AEW. AEW is not bad. I watch AEW. But I prefer promos. I prefer stories than wrestling.
But I think that's the difference nowadays as well, though. And I was going to throw this in on the point, is that wrestlers are better now than they ever have been, I think. And I think you look at that with the likes of AEW. If you look at any AEW pay-per-view, whether it be Double or Nothing, which is on this Sunday, whether you look at any pay-per-view last year, and you look at any match on that card, yeah, you're going to have a bad match or two on every card. It just happens. There's nothing you can kind of do with it. But if you look at nearly every match on their cards, they're 5-star matches or they're close to it. Like, they're unbelievable. It's just trying to add that little bit of a story element into it. That's what made Cody and Roman so perfect at WrestleMania 40s, because you had a 2-year build.
Yeah.
You had a 2-year story to it. Do you know that kind of way? And yeah, you mightn't have had the full first year of, oh, we're getting Cody and Roman. Do you know that kind of way? But you slowly built up to it. You had that Roman bloodline whole thing. That's why like a promo will make more than an actual than I think it matters more than your wrestling ability.
I was initially going to disagree with you just because I was kind of like, would you always have managers to kind of fill that void? But then when I was thinking of examples of that, like, you know, I was going to say Brock Lesnar because I was going to be like, well, Brock Lesnar can't really cut a great promo. I do argue he can't cut a great promo, but he can still cut a promo in fairness to him. But one thing I realized when I was thinking on that point as you were speaking is that he can kind of communicate through his body language as well, more so than he really needs to by vocalizing, like, do you know what I mean? And just listening to you speak more on that point as well, it just reminds me of one of the fundamentals of pro wrestling. You hear people say this in interviews all the time. Pro wrestling is trying to sell a match between a good guy and a bad guy, and you're only going to sell that match through the story you're telling in the ring. So I was initially going to disagree with you, but the more I think about it and listen to your points, I think you're 100% right.
I'll just debunk your Brock thing. Go look at the Cowboy Brock run.
I hated that. I absolutely hated that. When it was, I couldn't. It wasn't for me.
Go back to from the
But
depths.
that's no. But in fairness, going back to when we started this episode, opinions are all subjective. Just because one person thinks another doesn't mean
How
that I'm
dare
right
you
in
not
saying
agree
that.
with what I just said?
Martin just starts headbutting his monitor now.
I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna go on X and I'm gonna tweet my displeasure.
Will, what do you think of that point about promos and wrestling ability?
When you start talking about it, two promos came to my mind. Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 26.
Yep.
The whole thing that Shawn needs this. It's Shawn's legacy on the line. He needs to prove that he can beat the Undertaker. And when he tried to win the Royal Rumble, he got thrown out, and then he cost Undertaker his World Heavyweight Championship. And then basically Undertaker was like, all right, bud, I'll give you my chance. Well, your chance, sorry, if you put your career versus the streak. That whole build-up from the night after WrestleMania 25 all the way to WrestleMania 26 was perfect. Even though they were still youngish, not even youngish, but, you know, not as old as they are now. It could have slowed down the match a small bit, but no, the whole promo package of that was unbelievable. And then the other one, which my dad watched, which was amazing with him, waking him up at, I think it was like 2 a.m. just to get him up and ready to watch it, was Daniel Bryan versus John Cena at SummerSlam. John Cena came out with the title and the white t-shirt saying the champ's here with the picture of the title, which I thought was so tacky looking because he had it's just awkward to see. And then every superstar standing on that ramp and goes, oh, basically the one who's undermined, the one who's not respected enough for his talent in the ring, the one who can prove he's going to be the champ one day, and then he points at the ring, calls Daniel Bryan. That whole yes movement was created from that little moment from Cena saying, give this little guy a chance. And then you got to see Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30, the whole against the McMahon thing, then putting down, losing that SummerSlam, then going into WrestleMania 30, as I said, beating Triple H, coming out battered, bruised, winning the match, and chanting there with everyone at WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans. Like, I don't think there was one person that wasn't chanting yes. So, like, promos do matter. And even if you have a wrestler who's okay at wrestling versus a guy who's good at wrestling, and then they both can cut a great promo, that match is, as you said, can easily be 5 stars. So promos matter over like wrestling ability.
It doesn't hurt all the same when the people can wrestle too, because
absolutely. But look at any Will Ospreay match, and
exactly.
like you're gonna like him or Kenny Omega even as an example, and Kenny even got a good promo. Talking about Ospreay, in fairness, he's getting a lot better as the years going on. Like, but like any match that the two of them put on, you're going to sit down, you're going to watch, and you know you're going to enjoy it. Like, so I'm not saying I'm not saying your wrestling ability just doesn't matter. It's not going to get you anywhere. But like, I just think promo will get you a little bit further than just your wrestling ability.
100%. I will say on that point, just to before we move on to Martin's first sec, but the with Ospreay and stuff like this, one thing I just want to throw this in there really, really quick, because I was talking to someone on Hard Knocks about this as well. I really, really hope they stop leaving him to do these standalone promos in the ring with the crowd, because like I don't know if it's the ADHD or whatever getting through, which is totally understandable, but like he gets like overly giddy and kind of goes a little bit. Now, not who am I to criticize him? Someone watching at home, like, do you know what I mean? But like, he kind of goes off topic with his promos a small bit, whatever. Like this, I kind of think he always, like, at least maybe for the next few months, needs to come out to meet someone in the ring, whether that's a Tony Schiavone or it's someone he's going to be wrestling. Like, they did a really smart move this week by not having him do like a straight up in ring promo and stuff like that. Because he did that the first few weeks between like his debut after signing full time, and like and the match at Dynasty O'Brien and everything like that. And I think Ospreay is one of those people that I think his actions speak louder than words, and have him talk as minimally as possible. And I think he'd just be absolutely fantastic. But he is already absolutely fantastic. Doesn't matter. Martin, what is your first sex, sir?
Now, mine's more regarding one person. I know it's not Emmet, it's not what I said earlier on, but
Thank you.
Sami Zayn was the wrong choice to beat Gunther at WrestleMania.
100%.
And I say that because if you were to ask me what was he doing beforehand, couldn't fucking tell you. There was one man for the job, one man that got a massive fucking pop because he finally would have gotten what he fucking deserves, and that was Chad Gable. Chad Gable should have been the man. Chad Gable should have beat Gunther. And I know, yeah, we're getting this little fucking heel turn out of him at the time, or as of right now. But if this heel turn doesn't lead to an IC title reign by SummerSlam, what was the fucking point? You missed your shot again.
That's 125% facts.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone. This is one dodgy area in WWE, in my opinion. Do you remember the whole thing where Kurt Angle had a son?
Yep.
And he picked the wrong person. I'm sorry, they picked the wrong person. Chad Gable should have been his son and gave him an amazing run. He could have walked away with the IC title and the United States title in that era, and kind of like make it like a European title and IC title when Kurt Angle done it. Was it European and IC title? Or was it European?
I think was it IC title? Yeah, I think it was IC title.
So he could have done that kind of little throwback.
Yeah.
The way Chad Gable was being built up to the whole thing, ready to fight Gunther until Sami Zayn got the chance to do it, everybody was Chad Gable, Chad Gable, Chad Gable, Chad Gable. And then when they had the thing, I think it was before Sami Zayn won. Do you remember when you seen his daughter crying and all that?
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. If he came out the following week, for instance, and was like, I need that one more chance to prove that that was a fluke and I can show my thing, have Chad Gable won, and then bring him onto Gunther, that match would easily sold out arena on its own. If you said Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable, I'm getting ahead of myself, versus Gunther in arena itself, it definitely would have sold out its own thing. And having Chad Gable win by like the ankle lock and a suplex or something would have made it dangerous Chad Gable for many reigns.
Anyone else want to throw in a few cents there?
Right, I disagree.
Leave.
And I disagree for a couple of different reasons. One, which isn't the main reason I disagree, Sami Zayn last year was at the top of his game. That match against Roman, he was the most over man in the company by a long shot. The main event of WrestleMania. And I'll be honest, the year he's had after that WrestleMania has been a bit up and down. But he's still extremely over with the crowd. Extremely over. And the point that I'm getting to with that is when you look at someone like Gunther, who's held that title for, I think it was 666 days.
Yep.
Who's an absolute dominant force in WWE and has been since he joined NXT UK. And even before that in the European independents, which people are now catching up on. They're watching him, they're seeing what's going on. And he was unbelievable. We've seen him, we've seen the matches. Well, we haven't seen him live, but we've gone back and watched him on OTT on demand. Subscribe.
Good plug.
I think, and this is no discredit to Chad Gable, but I don't think Chad Gable is a big enough of a character, if I'm going to put it that way, to have beaten Gunther for it to mean something. I think if Chad Gable had beaten Gunther and won the Intercontinental Championship, absolute huge pop, elation at WrestleMania. What happens on the Monday night? Where does he go?
That's the next story.
Whereas I think with Sami Zayn is a huge face. You know, turn Chad Gable heel, turn the rest of Alpha Academy heel. You put on that chase for Sami Zayn, he wins it at SummerSlam.
But what if he doesn't win at SummerSlam?
He will. I'm telling you now, he's going to win that IC title at SummerSlam. He might win it before SummerSlam. He might even win it this weekend, the Queen of the Ring. Who knows? But I'm telling you now, Chad Gable will win the title. But the main reason I'm going to disagree is I don't think Chad Gable is a big enough character or wrestler to have been the one to take it away from Gunter.
I think I sit somewhere in the middle with this because I do, in the manner in which Gunter lost the IC title at Mania, I don't agree with. Do I think Zayn was the only credible person on the roster at that point to take the title off him? If they had
Absolutely not.
well, I don't know, because like I think the right way to have done this, I don't think the feud between Gable and Sammy at the moment actually needs the title. You could have probably kept that belt on Gunter for the remainder of the summer. Yuvili and Dragunov now on the roster and everything. So I'm like, my logic of thinking is this: the following, like, let's say Sammy loses by a hair at Mania. Let's say he doesn't win the belt. Following Monday Night on Raw, number one contenders match between him and Gable. Gable loses by like the smallest fraction, like a roll up or something like that. Still have him do the turn, have him absolutely like wipe out Sami Zayn or whatever like this. Adam Pearce suspends him. There's no Chad Gable for a few weeks. Then after the following pay-per-view, so after Backlash, we get to where we are now with Chad Gable basically bullying the Alpha Academy, getting in these extra lads in the form of the tag team whose name absolutely escapes me at the moment. But you
Creed
could have
Brothers.
that Creed Brothers, yes. But you could have had this whole summer doing what they're going to do anyway, which is going to be, you know, like Sami Zayn and Chad Gable wrestling back and forth again and again and again. At the pay-per-view before SummerSlam, have them have their big blow-off in like a 2 out of 3 falls match. Do you know what I mean? Have Sammy go over, but have Chad look like such a dominant, credible threat to Zayn, where Zayn looks even more capable. Chad looks like a way bigger menace or whatever like that. You could still have like Sammy win the belt at SummerSlam. Still a big moment. I would argue it would have been a bigger moment because you have that contenders chase, which I don't think really existed for the ICT title on the run up to SummerSlam or on the run up to WrestleMania. Sorry, but I feel that title switch at WrestleMania was just very rushed. I don't think that was the ending for Gunter's reign. That like it felt like it was very much shoehorned in there, and I don't think that was a long-standing decision. I think that decision for Gunter to drop the belt at WrestleMania was only made either a week or so beforehand. If I'm being totally honest, just watching it in real time.
I don't think it's even that. I think they preface the story more on about Sami Zayn and Chad Gable.
Yeah.
So that kind of way, that's what I think they preface it on more. Now, even if Chad Gable had beaten Gunter at Mania and they stayed doing the Chad Gable Sami Zayn feud after Mania, Chad Gable still would have had to turn heel.
Oh,
There's
100%.
no way
Yeah.
Sami Zayn is turning heel. Not after the year that he's had, the 2 years that he's had, year and a half that he's had. He's one of the top guys in that company at the moment.
Mm.
You know, 100%. And to mention your point, Emmet, as soon as Ilya Dragunov enters that frame in the Intercontinental title picture, no one's getting that title. No one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Ilya's all true. So I when I said I disagree, I'll again on Emmett's point, I'll kind of join you and I'll go agree, but I'll go 50, 51, 49 kind of thing.
I'm going to throw a little like sub opinion here. Sami Zayn needs to cut his hair. Please cut your fucking hair.
But it's receding, but it's not going anywhere. He's of an age where his hairline's going to be going back, like, but he's not going to lose it, like.
And the chance that he isn't, and you just said that, what a dickhead.
Just because Emmett's losing his own hair. So.
Now, I would like to just throw
I'm losing my fucking patience is what I'm losing up in here.
I would like to throw in just because Carmo
know what I've been dealing with while you haven't been here.
I'm trying to talk here. You stop laughing?
Sorry, Dad.
Unprofessional here in this podcast.
Sorry, Mom.
I would like to throw in some breaking news from Triple H that the winners of the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments will receive world title shots at SummerSlam. So I believe the finals for the women's is Lyra versus who's she against again, Carmo?
We don't know yet.
Oh, it's happening on Friday SmackDown. Okay, that's why I was like, I can't remember who she's facing.
It's either Nia Jax or Tiffany Stratton, I think.
And then the men's, I believe, is Gunter, right?
Yeah.
Versus, I'm assuming it's going to be whoever wins on SmackDown.
It's either Randy Orton or Tama Tonga.
But they will receive a championship opportunity at SummerSlam. So, could Gunter go back for the IC title or just move on?
So that's probably going to be Randy.
You guys will all find out or have found out already because at the time of this comes out, that would be about 3 hours away.
Well, the pay-per-view would have started by the time this came
I'm
out.
going to put this out at 3 p.m., so just in case.
Yeah. This is the pre-show. This is the real pre-show for the pay-per-view.
Exactly. Exactly. Will,
Okay, cool.
your first controversial opinion?
It goes back to 2006 when RVD won the WWE title. Personally, I don't think he should have been stripped. I know what he done was idiotic. But when he came out, bet John Cena, and then he was awarded the ECW title. It just, as I said, like it gives me flashbacks to people holding two titles at once. I thought he was just looks such like a badass, like an ECW title on one shoulder, one of the prestigious titles on his other shoulder for the WWE. As I said in the group chat there, before I hopped on, I reckon he could have done some amount of amazing matches for 6 months, a year, maybe a year and a half with that WWE title. And like the people he could have went up against, like you could have had him and Edge, you could have him and Cena obviously rerun it. You could have him and Orton, you could have him and Triple H, you could have him like one of the Hardys if they were there. But I don't think he should have been stripped. And I think he would have been such a good WWE champion.
Oh, Emmet?
I'd fully agree with that. And I'd actually add to your point that him being stripped of, I'm going to park the WWE title aside for 2 minutes, but him being stripped of the ECW title detrimentally affected the launch of the ECW rebrand WWE, because it was very, very apparent they were banking quite a lot of the success of ECW on Sci-Fi with Rob having that title. And they were like with Paul Heyman's grand scheme for it and everything like this working, obviously with the McMahons and whatever. The plan was to integrate younger talent using ECW veterans and to get them over that way. So you would have had, like, in that whatever course of months that Rob had the belt, you would have had him wrestle CM Punk when he was like first into ECW and stuff. You would have had him work with Elijah Burke. You would have had him work with John Morrison. You would have had him doing kind of like nostalgia matches with Sabu and stuff, which would have been absolutely fantastic. Who he would have dropped the belt to, I don't know. I would assume he would have eventually dropped it to Punk, because Punk was this like, out of all the up and coming ECW talents 2006, he was the one they were really, really pushing. From a company point of view as well, I've talked about this with friends before and everything like that. Rob Van Dam and Sabu were not exclusively the only two lads on that roster smoking weed back then. And look, benefit is, benefit is whatever, or benefit of hindsight is whatever. But like, like Orton has for years talked about his marijuana use and everything like this. So I don't know if it was the fact that they were caught. That could have been it, because it kind of puts them in a negative spotlight. But again, wasn't a huge quantity they were caught with either. Do you know what I mean? There's been a lot of talent caught with a lot worse than weed in the back of their car. Like, go back to whatever you're throwing dart, and you can find a worse case of like, a WWE talent involved the police in one way or another. But yeah, I do think it was a bad decision WWE's part, especially just the way they treated Van Damme for the rest of his run and everything like that. But I don't know. I can't speak for what their logic was at the time with it, but it did detrimentally affect the long run plan with the ECW on Sci-Fi after the fact.
You want to go, Carmo?
There's 2 points to this conversation. One is, which I think is your point, should he have been stripped of the titles? The answer is no, you are right. That's 100%. There is a wider spectrum to that. And I don't know if we want to get into it or not. That's the question.
Is it gonna get me in trouble?
No, not really.
Work away.
No. So to speak to your point, should he got stripped of the title? No, he shouldn't have. That shouldn't have happened. Absolutely not. I know what he did. It shouldn't have counted. It shouldn't have mattered. It shouldn't have made any difference. Didn't affect his wrestling ability. Do you know that kind of way? There's people out there who've done worse and it's affected their wrestling ability. In that case, good luck and get out.
Yeah.
My point with it is, when he won the WWE ECW Championship in 2006 at One Night Stand,
Mm-hmm.
I think he lost the title after 2 weeks. I think it was 3 weeks,
2 weeks,
maybe
2 weeks on Raw.
He would have been dropping that WWE title very, very quick either way. It just would have happened. And the reason being is because Cena and Edge was a hot thing at that time. Edge was really after coming into his own. Like, that kind of way, and Cena was the top dog. Like, and we saw the feud that Edge and Cena ended up going on for the next 2 odd years, 3 years. Like, that kind of way. I think the other issue is, I reckon that match was supposed to happen in 05 at One Night Stand, only for Rob Van Dam was injured. So I reckon he was due to win that title at 05. I think the other problem is, and I know WWE wanted the third show at the time, Shane McMahon wanted that show to be an online exclusive, kind of bringing in the WWE network a lot earlier than the WWE network actually came in. I think if you give that to Shane and Paul Heyman as an online show, it would still be going and still would probably be one of the best wrestling shows in the world at the moment.
I think if they had done that, it definitely wouldn't have lasted till today. I think somehow people would have given out about that. My one thing is, having him drop it to show, there was definitely better options at the time than giving it to Big Show. But obviously Vince saw Lashley. It's a massive star. You need that big guy to kind of take him down a bit. So, but like you had Punk, who was an absolute fan favorite at that time. Could have thrown it on any other ACW original. So my one thing is just, it could have been done a lot better than pissing off the ECW fans.
Yep.
But while we're at the halfway point, sorry, you going to say something?
I was just going to segue into the next person, but I was just going to say they're all very, very fair points.
Just because we're at the halfway point, we're 40 minutes in. Carmo, there's a show on next week. I believe it's June 2nd, where a match just got announced for a golden ticket tournament. A couple of
seconds ago, yeah.
Of CJ West versus Big Dirty Nicky. But what show is it, Carmo?
What show is it? Let me think here a second. I think it's on June 2nd. Is that right?
June 2nd is the date.
June 2nd. Where is it on? Is it Donald's Warehouse?
No, it's actually down in Cork.
Right?
TNA Slammiversary.
Donald's Warehouse.
Cork. It's not Cork. It's Limerick. Limerick City. That's it. Hard Knocks. I remember. It's coming to me. Hard Knocks, Hard Luck, Volume 2, June 2nd, Limerick City, Dolan's Warehouse. Get your tickets now. It's already, I think there's 4 matches announced. We have Key Noonan against Sammy D for the Hard Knocks World Championship. Banger. Absolute banger. We have Francis Mercer against Keane Galaccini. I'm telling you now.
Squash match.
I'm telling you now. Get to that match. I'm telling you now. Get to it. Because it's going to be an absolute banger. It's possibly going to be one of the best matches we've ever seen in Hard Knocks. Putting my hand on my heart for that. We've got a Royal Rumble, a Lucky 13 Royal Rumble.
Come on, Chris Conley.
Just took my absolute momentum out of me.
Lucky 13.
Yeah, Lucky 13. Royal Rumble. And we've also got, as Martin just said, just announced as we are recording this, Golden Ticket Tournament, CJ West versus Big Bad Dirty Nicky.
Get your tickets. Hard Knocks. Sorry, it's not Hard Knocks. It's hktix.com, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Get your tickets there. $23.50. Great fucking night out. Last year, Hard Knocks, Hard Luck, Volume 1, best show of the year. Volume 2 looks to outdo that. So get your ass down to Dolan's. I have a controversial take, though, from this show. General managers should not be booking themselves in matches.
Look, we've seen it a lot. Seen it a lot. It always happens. And it doesn't matter either way. We all know who's winning that Lucky 13 Battle Royal. Shut your mouth, Will, before you start. He just wants to be friends with everyone. Monty's going taking it home in the Lucky 13 Battle Royal.
And
he's going to whip Renzo Rose in for the All-Ireland title.
Ooh, Carmo with them fighting words. But yes, get down to Dolan's, get to Limerick, Hard Knocks, Hard Luck Volume 2. It's going to be a fucking banger of a show. And come say hi to us. Except for Emmet.
Well, I'll be with my mum.
Is she coming to the show, is she?
She is.
Yeah.
She couldn't make the last one because of work. So I asked her there the other day. I was like, what's your work calendar like? And I was like, are you free June 2nd? She was like, I am. I was like, let's go to the wrestling again. So I think my mum's been converted now, which is lovely to see.
I think she's
still on the trampoline.
She's still on the trampoline. I could, just my mum out the back holding 2 weights. She's like, I just got to be ready. Just got to be ready for Sammy and that title.
If she is, like, I'll make a call. I might be able to get her in the Rumble.
That'd be hilarious. Could you imagine that? Like, we go upstairs during intermission. There's my mother with Steve Savage, and she's just like, I'm not booked.
I can't wait for your mum to like disappear for 2 seconds, come back, and just Cian Noonan has been taken out backstage. We don't have a replacement for the Sammy D match. I volunteer tribute.
She already
luchador mask on.
Yeah.
El Mami. She already picked her own entrance music and everything. Like, I'm not too familiar with this, but like some of the listeners might know, like Megan Thee Stallion, and she has a song called Mother, and it's like, I am your mother. You listen to. She was literally saying that 2 weeks after the show, and I was like, do you know something now? I was just like, that's enough. It's like, we'll wait till the next show we're at.
Petition for Emmet, for OTT especially, to give Emmet the same gimmick as Daryl Lynch, and to also bring in his Memmy. So we can have a mixed tag team match of Daryl Lynch and Emmet and the 2 Memmies.
I would bait him up and down, Gary, once I would.
Bring us back on track, Emmet.
We're going back to this. I'm just going to wait one more point. So I cannot wait for Liam Royale to be one of the surprise entrants and win the Hard Knocks Rumble. But getting back to controversial takes, let's get into my next one.
That's a controversial take.
It is a controversial take. But I'm afraid of him, so I won't be anywhere near him if he comes into the buildings. That's absolutely A-okay. My next controversial take, I'm a little bit cautious of time, so we might go one more round.
Yeah, we're good for hopefully another round, if not one more after that.
Okay, perfect. So my next controversial take is this, and I will kind of die on this hill. I think that D-Generation X are the most pointless and overrated and underwhelming factions in professional wrestling history.
I'd also like to point out this guy does not care for Batista.
What?
I don't mind Batista. That wasn't me.
Who is you?
No, he kept... There was some joke... There was some... Oh, God, maybe I did say that. Oh,
you did, and we had the whole argument about his fucking belly tattoo.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't there a threat that I'd have to get that at some point or another?
Probably. And
I have my 2 weeks notice in it.
I must explain my point really short and sweet, though. It's actually not to do with their original run in the 90s. I think that was pretty solid. It's actually to do with the 2 comebacks, like the 2006 one and the 2009 one. Everything before that, absolutely ace. But compare them to the Horsemen, compared to NWO. Jesus, compare them to fucking LWO, just not the current incarnation. Like, what did DX do in their comeback runs in either one that makes them a standout faction in comparison to any faction in pro wrestling?
Carmo looks
Who the fuck is this guy?
Carmo looks ready to shut
it's
up.
Just excluding the 90s run. The 90s run, original DX and the second version of DX post Mania 14, all fantastic up until the breakup. It's just the comeback in 2006. It was just 2 40-year-old men making Mickey jokes, hanging out with women that were paid to be there. One of them was a born-again Catholic, so he was not going to be doing anything.
Saturday night for you and Kevin.
I don't hang out with people 20 years younger than me and like do Mickey jokes the whole time. I hang out with people.
In fairness, they weren't hanging out with the Spirit Squad. They were beating up the Spirit Squad.
But they were hanging out with Candice Michelle, putting mustard all over her. Like, do you know what I mean? There's a fellow with kids at home. Like, do you know what I mean? I find it now, being that bit older, just those 2 comeback runs, I just don't find. Now, some of the matches were class. The tag Hell in the Cell, I'll admit, that was pretty cool. That was like, and I mean the one now with fucking
Legacy.
Shane, it's not the one with Legacy, the one from the 2006 one. Was it Unforgiven 06? The Toronto show? That Hell in the Cell was class. The submission tornado tag with Legacy was excellent. Like, matches wise, it was fine. It's just the gimmick itself. It's like, I don't know. The older you get, like, when DX come back for like once offs now, it's funny because they're that much older. But being in your 40s doing that shtick, I don't know.
That
I
was
didn't
the
find it that
point
good.
of the return.
I know it was, but I just didn't find it funny. That's
Carmo, please save us.
I'm not even going to be honest. I think my reaction kind of said it all. Like, he's just, I'll agree with the 2009 return or 2008 return, whatever it was. I'll agree with that one, which is where they won the titles and stuff like that. I'll agree with that one. I think they were both just had kind of nothing much to do, so they were like, right, let's do this. Maybe Sean knew that he had a year left and he just wanted to kind of do a quick tag run with DX. I think they won the tag titles over that time, which they'd never won, so might have just fitted the story. But to say the 2006 one, I just can't get it, can't do it. But like the two of them come out impersonating the McMahons, like it's just comedy gold. It's just
look
comedy
at me,
gold.
Dad.
Like, spray painting the Jet and DX and like some of the skits, they were hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And who doesn't like a good Mickey joke? Like,
I know. I just don't think I think it's just
you're laughing here as I just said Mickey joke.
I do love a Mickey joke, but it's just I don't know. I sound like such a PG knobhead in the way I'm saying it, and it's not a political correctness thing at all. I love Mickey jokes, love dirty jokes. It's just.
Do you hear that, lads? He loves Mickey's.
Keep that in. Keep that in.
Emmet loves a good cock.
See.
The animal. What are you guys thinking of?
Okay.
Martin sits on birds. Okay, someone needs to move on to this.
Well, do you know what? Speaking of DX, this isn't my necessary opinion, and I'm not going to tell you whose it actually is, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Shawn Michaels is the greatest is the greatest pro wrestler the world has ever seen, and the only person who ever comes close to him is John Cena.
Was that an actual opinion you got from somebody?
It's an actual opinion I got from somebody.
If I was to guess it, would I get it right?
Maybe. I'm not going to say his name. His name should not be mentioned.
Have you already said the person's name on this episode?
Maybe.
Okay.
Ooh.
I think I know.
I don't agree with that now. Like, even comparatively, the second greatest wrestler of all time is John Cena. And I'm a John Cena American who was saying this. Like, come on. The Rock, I would argue. And I wasn't even around for The Rock's run.
The Rock was a great promo.
I really don't agree with The Rock.
Not with The Rock. Definitely not with The Rock.
Okay, well, I would say it with, like, Taker. Taker is a timeless character, great in the ring. Great in the ring. He was always great in the ring.
I am probably one of the most diehard Undertaker fans. I absolutely adore the Undertaker, but his wrestling ability lets him down.
I would, man. The case in point in this, and if there's anyone at home who's never watched this match, I would beg you to go watch this match. The match that caused Shawn Michaels to have to retire in 1998, the casket match from the Royal Rumble between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. The wrestling between the two, now, there's going to be an argument made that was because of Shawn, that match was great. Like, that match, like, Taker alone in that match is fantastic. Their chemistry was absolutely brilliant, like, which is, again, a testament as to why I would agree that Shawn is the best of all time. But Cena, just purely, like, as a character and as a person, definitely in the Mount Rushmore wrestler, but number 2 on that spot, no.
So you're agreeing with the Shawn Michaels thing, but you're disagreeing with the Cena thing.
I'm disagreeing with the Cena thing.
Okay.
Who would be?
I wouldn't put Cena. You're not going to agree with me on this.
I'm ready to say no.
I'm totally understand why. But when I say this now, I'm talking about 1980s and 1990s. I'm not talking about the 2000s. I would say Ric Flair.
No.
You could go back to the 70s if you wanted for that.
But even with the NWA stuff, like the Iron Man matches and the stuff with Dusty and the stuff with Terry Funk and everything. Now, do you know something? I retract that. I take that back because number 2 on a top 10 list or whatever.
In my opinion, it's Randy Orton. I think Randy has everything, and he's had that longevity as well in his career. He's been there for just over 20 years. Like,
He's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that hard, concentrated face. The whole time.
Because you know what I'm trying to keep
he's there thinking, I want you to zoom in on that face with just some proper, just thinking music.
Do, 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 do. I'm trying to be conscious of, like, if you're talking about, like,
this is everything now.
I know.
Like wrestling ability, promo ability, everything.
Oh, well, if we're saying number 2, that's easy.
Who?
Gallicini. Like, it's a bit obvious.
Fuck off with this stupid cunt.
Do you know, while he storms off now, I'm just going to say this really quick. What I'm trying to keep in mind is, like, accessibility as well. Like, if I'm going to name the second greatest wrestler of all time, it has to be someone that people who don't watch wrestling can know as well. Because that's the box office thing does come into it, as well as wrestling ability and promo ability and everything like this, which really only leaves 5 options. Because I did want to say Chris Jericho, but then Chris Jericho isn't as big of a box office draw as like Stone Cold or Hogan. That was why I think I initially went with Taker, but I don't actually know who I would say. Because it has to be someone who was in WWE, that was in WCW as well. Has to have had an over 20-year career.
Bret Hart.
Bret Hart would fall on the promo ability, I would argue.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
You could argue Rock and Austin as well. Like, Austin didn't have, like, unless you count the WCW days, which most people didn't watch. I know Martin definitely didn't watch, and he's slight ECW days. Like most people, they'll argue longevity.
Yeah.
Rock was a full-time wrestler for 4 years, I think, 5 years at the most.
Yeah.
But wasn't Stone Cold, like, actual WWE run not between, like, 3 to 4 years or something, if you add it all up?
I think
it
it's
was between
6.
95, 94 to kind of 01 or 03. 02 really is when he kind of fully stepped away.
But that's the thing. But, like, there's so many wrestlers that you can, like, compare to, like, when you try and put that number 2, but something slight brings them down. Like, you look at Booker T. I thought he was amazing wrestler, but promo-wise, he didn't cut me.
You telling me you didn't get hyped when he said that about that 5-time WCW champion?
Does that make him like a 50-time WCW champion?
Yeah.
Only other person I'll throw into the argument is Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good shout.
He can do comedy,
I would agree
he can do
with
wrestling,
that.
he can do good, he can do bad.
And he's a well-known name. People outside of wrestling know who Kurt Angle is as well, because he's gone through so many different avenues. He obviously has the Olympic win from '96. He's been in films. He's been in television shows. He's got a very successful podcast now. He's been on Joe Rogan. So there's that accessibility there that I was talking about when Martin went a few minutes ago. Because that was the point where I was getting kind of like so flustered, because I was like, okay, I can name 10 who would be the all-time best in the ring, but 7 of them can't cut a promo for shite. And out of the 3 that are left, only one of them is a household name, and it would still go back to Shawn Michaels. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd like to point out we spent about 17 minutes on that one thing. Will, give us another one.
As I said, I put another one into the group chat. Goldberg was a bad wrestler. He was terrible in the ring. He should have played full-time NFL or something, because he had the build for it. The only reason he looked so good was his matches and it was the way he was booked. Like, I like the whole "you're next" thing. I thought that was really good. I thought that was cool. But other than that, I thought he was a bad wrestler.
Yeah. I'd fully agree with that.
My only issue with what you've just said is that's not a controversial opinion. That's just fact.
Fair enough, so.
Can I give like a funny story to me? I was in work yesterday, and whatever show came on RT, I'm not getting the name of it now. But I went up to go get some, came back, and on the TV I just see this fucking big bald-headed man. The Goldbergs was on RT. See the TV is there. Just see this big, jacked, bald, fucking headed person. And I'm like, is that Big Bill Goldberg? Turns around and see the goatee. I know that big, jacked up, bald head anywhere. Fucking Goldberg. What a fucking twat.
Like, seeing him in that, because I know the TV show you're on about, I think it's based on Adam Goldberg. He's like a producer and a director. And like, I watched the show. It's comedy gold. It's a really good show if you want to watch it. And like, if you've seen him in The Longest Yard, and they were trying to recruit him to join the prisoners. And they're like, "Oh, why did he call you the Hammer?" They look down and they're like, "Oh, we get why you called the Hammer and all that." That is brilliant gold. Like he is well suited for them roles in movies and all that. He is a big jack dude, but in ring ability, like he's built to be this scary guy who punches through chamber glass and all that, grab you and like jackhammer you and all that. But other than that, like take a break, go back home, do a bit of fishing or something.
I'd fully agree with that. But I will say one thing, and I kind of did this in 2020. So, like, we talk all the time about how the podcast started, and I was watching TNA at the time or whatever, the evening I text the boys. But I was watching kind of similar to what the Drop Mix do now, but it was like a long form video about Goldberg's run up until him winning the world title in the George Dome. And the way that WCW actually built that, I will say, is fairly cool. Like watching that week to week with all of these squash matches and the streak being so long. But the one thing, and it's Bischoff that was behind this, which is the funniest thing in the world, is watching their relationship now, because Bischoff hates Goldberg and vice versa. But without Eric Bischoff, Goldberg does not have a wrestling career, because he had that character in mind for that run to beat Hogan. But then after that, there was no plans for him. And the only other thing I absolutely cannot stand about Bill Goldberg. Now, I will admit the 2016 return when he like squashed Brock, that was class. Like I didn't watch it in real time, but it was class. If he hadn't retired like Bret Hart, like inadvertently causing the head injury, which led to stroke and everything like that. Like I heard a very funny podcast story very recently, and it was on TikTok of all things, and it was about this stand-up comedian who was talking about how he got stoned with Bret Hart. And there's a meme about how all Bret Hart does is talk about Bill Goldberg caused him to retire. They talked about that, and literally, apparently, the entire time that Bret Hart was stoned, he spent like 2 hours monged talking and giving out about Bill Goldberg. So, like, even when his inhibitions are gone, he is talking about Bill Goldberg. Like, so Bill Goldberg took away his wrestling career, but he also took away his fucking peace of mind. Like, he is forever fixated on this. Like, dreams about Goldberg and everything now. Like,
now I have one more, but I'll let you do one more round because we're just after taking an hour. But okay. I'm going to throw in some for the people to kind of give comments on, because they come from Mr. Rob Gold. So 3 just for the people listening at home to kind of reach out, or even in the comment section to give us your thoughts. Mr. Gold says, do people/fans prefer long-reigning champions or champions who won it more? I don't give a fuck as long as there's a story. 2, the Nasty Boys don't get enough credit for the tag team division, but I think they should. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about there.
So
I know the Nasty Boys, but like what the fuck did they do?
Their WCW run was quite good, but the only reason they were ever in the position that they were in was because of Hulk Hogan.
And 3, out of all the wrestling families that have featured in mainstream wrestling, has the Anoa'i family been the best or biggest in the industry? Yes.
Biggest, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But at best,
no other family comes close. The Guerreros don't, because what Guerrero do you know that's going at the moment? I don't even know if Eddie's daughter is still going.
No,
she's still. I know she was, but I don't know if she still is.
No, there's
Vicky.
Vicky's not going anymore. She's long gone.
She's long gone.
She won't be going again.
Chavo's gone into more movies and helping for fighting scenes,
choreographer and all that. Yeah.
So like the Guerreros aren't like the Harts. We got Natalia. David Hart's made like, I don't know. I never cared for him. He was just this bland fucking wrestler. What other families is there?
There's the McMahons.
The Von Erichs.
The Rhodes, the Von Erichs.
There's not many Von Erichs on mainstream at the moment.
No, there's the tag team. There's the nephews of Kevin.
And like you don't need to be in mainstream like televised wrestling to be successful either. Do you know what I mean? Like the Good Brothers didn't really kind of get to television until they were kind of like in their early mid 30s.
This is the whole point, is who is more in the eyes of the public. Which family?
Like if you look at the Anoa'i family, right? You have the Wild Swans. You have Peter Maivia.
Yeah.
Like most of us won't know Peter Maivia or probably ever seen a Peter Maivia match. Might have seen a Wild Swans. You have Yokozuna. You have
Mhm.
Rikishi. You have The Rock. You have the
Umenga.
Usos. You have the Usos. You have Umaga. You have Rosie.
Mhm.
Jamal, I believe, was
Yeah.
Umaga. You have Tamina, the Usos, as I just said, Roman Reigns. You have Solo Sikoa,
Jacob Fatu. Zilla Fatu.
Zilla, Lance. I know there's a lot of people there. When you look at, like, I suppose, world championships and all that sort of stuff, it's huge. But I think a lot of like, if you mention that to people now, a lot of that viewing will be between Roman and Rock because of the
Yeah.
current story and the whole bloodline and all that stuff on the WrestleMania build up and stuff like that. But I think it's tricky to look past it. I think you can, like, I'd make an argument for possibly the Rhodes and more so for the work that Dusty did in wrestling, more than even Cody and Dustin. Like, Cody created the alternative. He created AEW, where he was one of the big creators of it. Dustin had a fantastic career. That's kind of one family you'd look at. You could look at the Ortons, but I don't think most people would look at Cowboy. So yeah, you're probably looking at the DiBiase's. That's my answer. I thought that'd pop in, but that's the only reason I said.
We can't talk about them either now at the moment.
No. Ted's fairly okay.
Ted's all right. Ted's all right.
One of them.
Yeah, they're both
you know, that one Ted.
I think they genuinely both got in cahoots together. If I don't have the specifics, yeah.
We are not getting into fucking $1 million title. That $1 million title is gone now, anyways. Right, one more round between you, and then I'll end on my one.
Okay, cool. I want to get one out of the way, and it's more not a controversial opinion. Some may find it controversial. I would think more so people behind the scenes could find this semi-controversial, but there's probably a very, like, black and white explanation for this. And this goes back to when I first got into Irish wrestling, which is just coming up in the 2-year mark now. Now, and before I say this, because someone's going to say, oh, because they're doing this here, and they're doing that there, and they're doing this here, I just want to throw one comparison out there before I mention this. When Kenny Omega had his, like, golden run in AEW, and when he was TNA champion at the same time, and AAA champion, everything this, everywhere he went, he was heel. Why is it in Irish wrestling we have, like, 4 federations? We've got RCW, we've got OTT, we've got Hard Knocks, we've got Fight Factory, and we have Titanic Wrestling up north, and we have NLW. So that's 6 federations in total, right? How come when someone is heel in one federation, they can't be heel in another? Like, if Sammy D is walking into OTT as heel now since SmackDown or whatever like that, he'll be heel as well at Hard Knocks because he turned heel on the last show or whatever like this. But if he was to appear in RCW, there's a chance he'd be a face. Same with X, Y, and Z. I know, like, you can say there's different canons and everything like this, but again, in America, they don't do that way. And I would argue if, like, you know, I was into wrestling for a long time before I stepped away from it and got back into it through this podcast and through you guys and everything like this. But if I was a lapsed fan, or if I was like a non-wrestling fan and went to like a second show and there was only like a week or two between it and it was a different company and someone came in as a good guy, as a non-wrestling fan, I'd be very confused. So that's just my thing. I would prefer, as a punter, and this is just a me thing, no one has to agree with me on this. If someone is a heel in RCW, there should be a heel in OTT, there should be a heel in NLW, and vice versa in every federation.
It fucks up booking. If they do that,
yeah, and I
because
get that,
let's say, right, let's go with Sam as the Hard Knocks world champion and the OTT. Sorry, imagine he was still OTT world champion. Imagine now Hard Knocks are booking Sam as this massive babyface.
Yeah,
and he turns heel in OTT, but Hard Knocks have this 6-month story of Sam being a massive babyface going up against whoever the massive heel is, and then we'll say wrestling rule is if someone turns one place, turn the other. Well, what the fuck do I do now? Why didn't fucking Joe talk to me and say, hey, I'm doing this? He just fucking turned him heel. There goes my plans for the next fucking 6 months. Do you know?
But there's a simple answer to that. Communicating between yourselves, like, do you know what I mean? That's they're all in the same business, they're all doing the same thing, so they're all in interest, like they should all be kind of working with each other's best interests in mind.
Realistically, I know, like here we say, all was it all tides, the fucking rising ships thing. I can never fucking remember it fully, but like bring everybody up. We say that a lot here, but realistically, you look if you're Joe Cabray, who is the biggest promotion in Ireland, and you're looking at
Europe.
Europe, and you're looking at them, you're going, well, like,
well, they're the preference, of course.
My brand, like, I gotta look after my brand and keep my stories interesting, so I don't. So, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Do you know? Not saying that Joe would ever do anything like that. I'm just giving it a world out there somewhere where this thing is actually happening. So I'm looking at it as you only have whatever the capacity of Dolan's is watching you. I have so much more. I can set out a 2,000 fucking person venue. I'm turning this motherfucker heel for my story.
It's like going off that point. Like I would 100% agree that it should start with OTT and feed down. Like any major changes, if things happen the way that I was like talking about there, if everyone followed suit and everything like this. My main reason for saying this, right, is like think about the draw. Think about where the draw stands in OTT at the moment, and they're kind of itching towards like the civil war amongst the draw over Be Cool getting exiled and everything like this. So we've had around 2 years of the draw now, officially as of a few months ago, 2 years ago, the draw would have formed under a different name, the Tricolor or whatever it was called at the start. Could you imagine, just for argument's sake, like it semi-existed in Hard Knocks, so there was a different version of the draw in Hard Knocks. You had Mikey Kelly a part of it and everything as well, which is cool, like, do you know what I mean? But imagine that consistency throughout every Irish federation that puts online content. Then the draw, which already feels like a big deal, would feel like a bigger deal if that was kind of coherent, if you get me, like, do you know what I mean?
The thing is, that would also fuck up. Do you know why? Because imagine if, like, the bookings had to follow the same, and so, let's say, fucking Hard Knocks puts somebody who's not exactly OTT ready into the draw, and that has to, again, stay the same.
Oh, no, hang on, because you could have different chapters of the draw in different federations. Just because they're in the draw doesn't mean that they would have to be recognized as officially in the draw within OTT either.
Yeah, but then you have the draw within chapters. I could have a good chapter, and you can have a bad chapter. Do you know?
Yeah, but I don't know.
It keeps contradicting itself.
Well, it's a nitpicky thing for me from a storytelling point of view. But I do understand it. I do understand where, like, it is a meeting. But I do understand why that can't be done, because
can't keep up.
No, yeah, that's it. Like, I get that, like, Joe has certain plans and Billy has certain plans and vice versa with every other federation. And I totally get that. It's like it's literally a meeting, and I know it'll never happen. Do you know that? That's why I'm kind of saying it's more of a meeting, and it is a controversial opinion because it's not going to happen. And I do get that people disagree, but like I just think back to that Kenny run, that wherever he went during that year, he was heel. And it just made that whole thing feel like a bigger deal and everything like this. Like, you know, if let's say if you're OTT and you have Sam, and Sam is going after these different federations within the borders of Ireland, if Joe just went, look, with Sammy, we want him to be like the biggest heel. Well, he is the biggest heel in OTT. We want him to stay the biggest heel, so we need him to consistently be a heel in other federations, whatever like that. But then I'm not going to say on this too long, but there is the other argument then of, like, you know, may have preference to work face in other places to get more experience working as a babe face in other places as well. It's a me thing. We'll move on from it because I've taken up way too much time. Carmo, sir, what is your next controversial take?
I don't actually have one, to be honest. Okay. I only kind of got two. I could sprout shit about CM Punk, but we've done that already, so I'm not going to do that.
Martin threatened that earlier as well.
You know what? AEW would be better if...
Oh, Christ.
If Linda McMahon was dead.
Well, if she was in charge, maybe.
I don't know. Some people are going to agree with me and all that, but like, I think, like, I'm speaking, if you watch football and all that, especially if you're a United fan, they're the most toxic people in the world. So if they win, they're going to put it up on their Snapchat or Instagram story. Oh, we're back, we're better than ever. Fuck your team, blah blah blah. And if they lose, they just turn against their team too much. That's wrestling fans for you. So they'll build up a wrestler for so long. For instance, Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
And they want him to win. And as soon as he gets that beautiful belt around his waist, finish his story, they're like, oh no, get back.
Oh, I'm bored now. Take the
Yeah.
title off him. Why did we put the fucking title on him in the first place? He's not even fucking good. And you go back to their tweets like, oh my god, Cody Rhodes is the best ever.
It's the most toxic thing I've ever seen with wrestling fans. And I love being a wrestling fan, as I said, especially that I found used guys and hard knocks and all that I'm able to experience that as a local person. But watching the WWE, like the Usos, they're like, oh, split them up. And now they're split up. They're like, okay, we kind of like this, but now, oh, we're getting bored of it. Put them back together. Like, it makes no sense.
Completely agree. Completely fucking agree. Biggest example, Seth Rollins. Back in 2019, where he had that massive run with the IC title, people loved it. Put the world title on him. They did it, and within a few weeks, oh my god, why is that title still on him? I'm fucking bored now. Get that fucking thing off of him. Wrestling fans nowadays are all about, okay, this has happened, now get to the end.
Yeah.
You know, people didn't care.
Patience.
People didn't care for the bloodline thing. I thought Roman Reigns' run was a generational run. Will never be fucking done again. The best fucking thing WWE have produced in the last 10 years. Sit back down, you.
No, I'm just comfortable now.
Oh, okay. I thought you were doing another Emmet. Like, the Roman Reigns thing was the best fucking story that they put out in the last 10 years, more. It was just fucking brilliant. I enjoyed every moment of it because it was a fucking story. Yeah, that's my fucking 2 cents on that. I completely agree with you.
But I will say one thing, just going off your point as well, which I've never understood. And like it exists within wrestling the same as with football. But with football, I understand it because with football, you grow up with your family's team, so you kind of inherit who you support with football. It's kind of like county colours. You're born in a county, you live in a county, that's the county you follow. With tribalism in wrestling, it's imagine having tribalism to do with capitalism, like, do you know what I mean? I'm gonna live and die by this company, like, do you know, it's very silly, like, do you know what I mean? Like Edge was on CVV's podcast recently enough, and he said it flat out. He was like, when I was a kid, I'd want to watch like Smoky Mountain and then try and watch this and try and watch that, and the more I could get, the better. Like, it's so funny now that like all of us now, kind of in like our mid-20s, maybe a little bit younger, maybe a little bit older, remember a time when it was impossible to watch wrestling here because you had to have Sky. To get any wrestling at all was fantastic. We're in a day and age now where like TNA is putting up full pay-per-views every single day of the week for free. AEW is doing it with matches. OGT is doing it with matches. It costs less than a point to subscribe to a lot of these streaming services for wrestling federations and everything like this. The fact that tribalism exists at all is absolutely nuts because there's so much accessibility with wrestling now that, like, if you really, really love wrestling, like, I think if it wasn't for that accessibility, I wouldn't have gotten back into wrestling as much as I have through this podcast, to be quite honest. Like, do you know what I mean?
Want to throw a few cents in there, Carmo?
The roundabout point that you're making is a point that I've made for quite a while, is that social media has ruined wrestling. That's the point that you're making. And in a way, we're partially blamed for that because we do a podcast. We talk about this stuff. And we give out about stuff that we don't like. And we praise stuff that we do like. It's the exact same thing. It's the social media era that has ruined it, and it's a lot of the dirt sheets. It's a lot of that sort of stuff that has ruined it, and no other industry, in my opinion, maybe it has. Pharmaceuticals probably because of COVID and all that bullshit. But I'm not getting into that either. Wrestling, I think, has been like more, especially because it's like it's a scripted show. Do you know that kind of way? We all know it is. Like it's all predetermined or whatever.
What?
Much as I hate saying that.
It's scripted?
I think that the social media has just ruined it in a lot of ways. Because like exactly as you were saying earlier, Martin, if Chad Gable had beaten Gunter at WrestleMania, we are a good month and a half apart from WrestleMania. Now people would be bored of it by now and wanted to get that title off him.
Yeah, it's true. It's very, very true.
Can we go back to the fact that you said that it's all scripted? I seem to remember that Be Cool told me that he had the first scripted wrestling match, and you're telling me now that it's happening over in WWE?
Yeah, he had his first scripted wrestling match in Ireland.
But he never said
He
that.
actually had the first two. Yeah, that was the second one that he had.
I can't keep up, lads. I will say this though, okay, because I saw a funny video. I think it was from Santi on TikTok, where someone
Santa Claus, like.
yeah, Santa Claus.
Good wrestler,
Where I
good
think
wrestler.
someone had said like they hadn't joined X and were considering it and blah blah blah, and he just goes, "Don't! You're pure. Stay away from the IWC. Just don't. You're pure. Just don't do it." Twitter is the worst fucking place for wrestling, especially if you want fucking to keep up to date and everything, because people are just fucking toxic as shit. Best thing I ever done was I stopped reading the fucking spoiling sheets, stopped digging in all that fucking thing, and just enjoyed wrestling for what it fucking is, week in, week out, not knowing that Seth's gonna win at WrestleMania, and then when Seth wins, go, well, I fucking knew that. Do you know? It's more fun when you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an industry that's built on escapism too, which people I think often forget about as well. It's an illusion, and you have to allow yourself to be sold the illusion to enjoy it. Because if you don't, and you're getting angry over results and everything like that, it's defeating the purpose of why it exists in the first place. Like,
Hey, we're allowed to get angry over results. Fuck Trenton.
oh,
I know. I take that back.
I don't. I got the if Trent wins, we riot sign behind me, signed by
but
Trent.
you also have his towel too.
Yeah, but that was from Homecoming. The first time I saw
keep that out of it. Keep it out of it.
Carmo doesn't want to relive that story.
Yeah, we can't talk about the towel on the radio. On the radio?
No,
on
not
the
that
podcast.
story.
Jesus.
The story of Carmo.
Oh.
Carmo, you have one, don't you?
I have 3.
Oh God. Okay, how many times did he fucking?
So many times. Anyway, come on, we've rambled too much. Come on.
Have we gone through everybody?
Yeah, it's your the last one. Now.
Perfect. So, and I was going to throw that in as an extra one, just, controversial thing. Don't read fucking spoilers and shit. But my final one, which is an Irish wrestling one, Be Cool does not deserve a fucking shot at the OTT title at Scrappermania, and Be Cool is overrated as fuck.
Right, well, we're ding done.
Yeah, I'm going to cut it here. See ya.
Can't we just leave? What a
You upset,
fucking
Carl.
what a fucking mark. He doesn't. I'm sorry, but Be Cool doesn't fucking deserve that shot.
Sorry.
One fucking bit. There are so many other deserving people, and it was the wrong fucking choice.
Well, I caused it. I gave him that
Yeah,
shot.
you did.
Like, to be fair,
grabbing his arse.
Yeah, and I got some squeeze in there too, which you can see on OTT on demand for the low price of X amount every month. I broke my I broke my streak actually of OTT on demand appearances this year. I made on the first 2 this year from 2 different, helping Be Cool in the Rumble and then being in the queue before Damo put Be Cool against the table or whatever. But yeah. Waiting for Carmo to come back now.
I don't think he's coming back. I think
he's
that's
gone
that now. I mean,
it
just goes to fucking show. He'd no argument for it. He knows. He fucking knows that. That's it. Be Cool. Is overrated as fuck. He is. I
don't agree with that.
There's Jay. Jay is so fucking good in the ring. We know what Jay can do. He deserved that fucking shot. Kean Noonan's still young. Could build himself up. Do you know? There's so many more deserving fucking people. I would have rathered Joe Cabray win that Rumble.
Oh, Jesus. Well,
I would have rathered Damian Corvin win that Rumble. This is how far I'll go. I would have rathered Galacini won that Rumble.
Oh, Galacini!
But that is my controversial take.
Well, on that note, this has been episode 100 and something Five Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast. We have lost to Carmody.
Before we go as well, I'd like to introduce everybody to my new weekly co-host, Emmet. Carmo has left the Five Marks as of right now.
There's going to have to be so much chopping and changing done to this exit. I swear to God.
So
Bad day for the parish.
Bad day for the parish is right. My God. Well, gentlemen, thank you as always for being on the podcast. Martin, thank you for being consistent with the podcast when I am not around. Will, thank you for being a lovely new addition to the podcast. Thank you, lovely people at home, for listening as always. Martin, where can the fine folks
Fine on the X5Marks pod, 5Marks podcast everywhere else. That's where you'll find. If you want to follow the other lads as well, Weekly Controversies _2 on Instagram. Make sure to follow the TikToks as well, Weekly Controversies and the 5Marks podcast. I believe it is 5Marks podcast on TikTok. So make sure you go do that. Let's do a change. Will, send us home.
Thanks for listening on Spotify or watching on the big YouTube. I want to thank the boys once again for allowing me on this one as well. I think it's my 3rd episode. If you haven't followed me, just drop me a follow on Squid Productions _. Also follow King Galacini on Instagram.
Ding ding done. We're ding ding done. Fuck this episode.